All right, welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into some source material that, quite frankly, completely shattered how I view a totally normal average Tuesday. We're going to unpack what we call the architecture of the daily triumph. Because instead of living this life of perpetual waiting, we're going to fundamentally rethink how we experience a normal day so we can conquer it, literally right now. We'll explore how to transform the mundane into the extraordinary, moving from just sort of passively existing to a hyper-engaged, victorious daily routine. So grab your focus. This is highly practical, extremely actionable, and yeah, potentially transformative.
Let's dive right in by confronting a trap that, let's be real, almost all of us fall into. Are you just waiting for Friday? Honestly, how often do you catch yourself postponing your happiness for the weekend, or a vacation, or just some distant special event? We constantly put our joy on layaway, don't we? We grit our teeth through the work week, practically just surviving, chugging way too much caffeine, battling the commute, all just to get to a few brief days of supposed freedom. We treat our actual, day-to-day lives as nothing more than a waiting room for the good parts.
And the source material highlights this brilliantly by contrasting two very different ways of living: the vacation mindset versus the daily triumph mindset. The argument here is that if we wait for a specific occasion, a birthday, a holiday, a weekend getaway, just to be happy, we're quite literally wasting the bulk of our lives. Plus, you risk massive disappointment if that rare event doesn't even live up to the hype. The daily triumph mindset, though, that's about creating excitement, progress, and deep satisfaction every single day by actively overcoming your own limitations. The satisfaction is immediate. You don't have to wait for the calendar to give you permission, and it's practically guaranteed.
Win the day to win your life. Just let that powerful mantra sink in for a second. It perfectly encapsulates why making every single 24 hours worth living for is the ultimate secret to taking real ownership of your happiness. You see, you don't win your life at the very end of it, taking some final tally of good years versus bad years. No, you win it right here, in the microcosm of today. Because if you stack enough winning days together, a winning life is just the inevitable byproduct.
Okay, moving into embracing voluntary discomfort, or what we'll call the morning crucible. The incredibly counterintuitive method for achieving that daily triumph? It's all about deliberately choosing to struggle.
So the author doesn't just wake up and blindly stumble to the coffee machine, dreading the day. They treat the morning as a literal crucible. It starts the exact moment you open your eyes by anticipating a true test of your physical and mental potential. This means engaging in rigorous physical exercise right out of the gate. And we're talking about real, sweaty effort here. By using your strengths to overcome physical and mental limitations first thing in the morning, you actively generate a profound, undeniable sense of progress. You're setting a baseline of success before the world even has a chance to demand a single thing from you.
Now, the absolutely crucial point here is that this pain isn't a punishment. You aren't just torturing yourself for fun or out of some misplaced sense of guilt. The source explicitly states that engaging in activities that make you toil provides a genuine, intense kick to the reward centers of your brain. It's a deliberate, calculated strategy to essentially hack your biology. By voluntarily choosing to struggle in a controlled environment, like a tough workout, you naturally develop power, self-control, and temperance. You're quite literally wiring yourself for resilience, which makes the rest of the day seem significantly easier by comparison.
Which brings us to the chemical payoff and building your biological armor. Because this physical struggle builds an invisible but very, very real armor. It's not just a feeling. It's about altering your actual chemistry.
We aren't just talking about abstract philosophy or self-help platitudes here. We're talking about hard, measurable science. An intense morning workout releases exercise-induced growth factors, specifically BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor, alongside a really potent cocktail of other hormones. These factors physically push your neurochemicals and your entire biology into a highly optimized growth state. Think of it like fundamentally upgrading your brain's hardware before most people have even checked their first email. You're preparing your brain to learn faster, retain more, and handle stress with way more grace.
4 to 5 hours. That represents the window of time you get to feel this massive endorphin rush and psychological boost following that rigorous morning exercise. The author notes that this feeling is highly addictive, but, in the absolute best possible way. For nearly a quarter of your waking day, you are riding a massive wave of affirmative energy, entirely driven by your own morning victory. It's a natural high that propels you through meetings, creative work, and all sorts of complex problem solving.
And this chemical payoff actively transforms your baseline mindset. Let's compare the difference for a second. Without that morning crucible, your mind is vulnerable. You're susceptible to whatever external chaos the world decides to throw at you: a bad email, brutal traffic, a grumpy coworker. But with the crucible, You're optimistic, energetic, and completely insulated. The author points out that this biological state gives you an edge to handle your job and personal obligations with absolute patience. You aren't just reacting to the day, you are running the day efficiently on your own agenda.
So how do we keep this going? Let's look at building your daily routine, or what the author calls temple maintenance. Because to sustain this incredible biological armor, you need a very specific set of daily rituals.
Building a daily triumph isn't just about the morning alone. Yes, it kicks off with that intense exercise, but then you have to actively sustain it. Midday is all about fueling the body with nutritious foods and quality dietary supplements to recover your muscles and fuel your brain. In the afternoon, it's about staying active and keeping that momentum, aiming for at least 8,000 steps completely separate from your morning gym workout. In the evening, the author intentionally carves out 10 to 15 minutes for dedicated deep breathing to reset the nervous system. And finally, the whole shebang concludes with a regular, disciplined bedtime. Every single phase of the day serves a purpose and contributes to the win.
I consider my body as a temple and my mind as a god who sits in the temple. According to the source, because of this deeply held belief, it becomes an absolute duty to devote part of your day to fully nurturing both body and mind. You do this to realize your full, unadulterated potential for that specific day. It's a holistic, almost sacred way to view self-care. It stops being this little luxury that you try to squeeze in, and it becomes a non-negotiable, vital obligation to yourself.
But hey, moving on to forgiving the off days, the forgiveness clause. Let's be real for a second. What happens when life inevitably gets in the way of this perfect routine?
Travel, unexpected events, family functions, they happen to all of us. But this is where the forgiveness clause in the author's philosophy truly shines. Think about it. If you're ruthlessly consistent most of the time, those interrupted days, the skipped workouts, the missed healthy meals, the late nights out, they make up just a tiny, bare minimum fraction of your overall lifetime, maybe 5%. The massive 95% of your life is built entirely on solid, disciplined days. You've built an overwhelming surplus of good habits.
The real beauty of showing up and struggling voluntarily most days is that it builds the psychological grace to forgive yourself when you do fall short. The author notes that even though it feels disappointing to miss a routine, they can gracefully accept these off days precisely because they've been consistently disciplined for the rest of them. Your long track record of triumph actively protects you from the guilt of a rare stumble. You don't spiral, you just acknowledge the blip and get right back to the crucible the very next morning.
All right, let's look at a life in miniature and creating your own happiness. Let's bring all of this together to see why mastering this routine completely changes how we view our entire existence.
The overarching lesson you should take away from this explainer is simple, but it is incredibly profound. A day is a life in miniature. What we do daily matters exponentially more than what we do once a week or once a year. We can't passively wait for joy to find us. We have to actively create it, making every single day worth living for. By embracing the crucible and engaging in temple maintenance, we cultivate a festival-like atmosphere, a vacation-like mood every single day. We stop enduring our lives and start actively enjoying them.
Seriously, stop putting your joy on layaway for an event that might end up disappointing you anyway. You don't need a massive festival or some hugely expensive vacation to feel lively. Start generating that high internally every single morning. You have the biochemical tools, you have the blueprint for the daily routine, and you now have the mindset to construct a triumphant reality right now, today. The power is entirely in your hands, not on your calendar.
So I'll leave you with this. What will you look forward to tomorrow? I'm challenging you right now to stop waiting for Friday. Stop waiting for the next holiday. Start conquering your own daily miniature life. Embrace the discomfort, build that biological armor, and claim your absolute triumph, starting the very moment you wake up tomorrow morning. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Now go out there and win the day.